Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to lesson 3. And in this lesson, we'll be talking about the 6 questions that a writer should answer before embarking on a writing project. Okay, and those questions are the 5 W's and the 1 H question. They're pretty common, but we'll go into them and talk about why a writer should answer these questions, okay, before starting the writing project. Now let's get right into it. The 5 W's and 1 H are, like I said before, they are questions that will guide the writer in how to properly, present their book idea, or whether it's fiction or non-fiction, how to properly present the message that they would like to convey in their work. Okay, answering these questions is crucial because you will be able to, when you answer these questions, you will then have a kind of guide that will help you throughout the writing process. Okay, you will not start somewhere and then get stuck because you don't know what next to do. Okay, but if you have answered these questions, that sort of thing will not happen to you. You'll just have a kind of you just breeze through the writing process. Okay, think of it like a kind of outline, a rough outline that you'll have on the side and that you can follow, okay, while you are writing your book or article or whatever. Okay, so what are they? They are the 5 W's are what, why, who, where, when, and then the 1 H is how. Okay, so I'm going to start with the what question. You need to answer this question. What is the story that I want to write about? What is it about? What is this idea that has come into my head now? What is it about? What does it entail? What are the stakes? Okay, what if it's a fiction book? You'd have to answer, what does the antagonist want? What drives the antagonist? What drives the protagonist? What makes them make the choices that they do? What motivates them? Okay, you need to answer these questions, because if you don't know what the story is about, then there's no point, right? So you need to answer this question. If possible, get a pen and paper or a journal and then write what the story is about as a heading, and then just write everything that comes to your mind. Okay, that will help you understand what it is that you want to write about. That will help you understand, and even sometimes help you flesh out what it is that you want to write about. Okay, so you need to answer those questions. What is the story about? What is the protagonist? What does the protagonist want? What are the stakes? And what drives the antagonist, okay, to do what they do? Okay, then you now answer the question why. Okay, why does the story take place? Why do you want to write this story? Why? What is the essence of the story? Okay, why do you want to write the story? If it's a non-fiction book, you think about, why do you want to pass this information on to your readers? Is it that there is a kind of gap that you want to fill? Is it that there's a knowledge deficit in that area and you want to bridge that gap, or you want to fill that gap? Okay, try to answer that question. As I said before, also you can write it down as well. Write down everything that comes to mind, the reasons why you want to write what you want to write, whether it's a story or not. And then the next question is who. If it's a novel, you'll be asking, who are the characters? Who does the story center around? Or who are the characters that the story center around? Who does the story happen to? So you'll be you'll be writing down who your characters are here. You're talking about the protagonist, their their friends and the antagonist and all that. So this is where you'll be writing who, who are the characters that your, you know, story centers around. If it's for a non-fiction, you'll be thinking about who you want, who your ideal readers are. Okay, if you're writing a book about, how to gain financial security or financial freedom, for example, you'll be looking at, people that are maybe entrepreneurs or people that are working 9 to 5 and, they want to have a, a kind of, you know, something to fall back on. Okay, those are the people that you'll be looking at, entrepreneurs, people working 9 to 5, or generally anybody that wants to get, financial freedom. So this is just a rough example for the non-fiction. Okay, so who is the story for, or who is the story about, for fiction or non-fiction as the case may be. So the fourth question you need to answer is, where does the story take place? This question may not really apply to for non-fiction, but it does apply for fiction and creative non-fictions like memoir. So, okay, you need to define where the setting is, it take where it takes place, or the different places that your story is set. A novel usually has more than one setting. Okay, it usually has more than one setting. So you need to define, where you want that story, your story, to take place. All the places, it, in a town in Nigeria, for example, or in a state in the US, or wherever it is that you want, you need to, put them down. And if it's more than one, you need to, itemize them and get clear on that. And then the last W question is when. When does your story take place? This also may not apply in non-fiction books like textbooks or whatever. It could apply for memoirs, yes, but it definitely applies if you're writing a novel. Okay, you need to define the time, year, and month, and sometimes a period of time that your novel takes place. For example, if you're writing a novel that takes place during, the slave trade during that time, or maybe during World War II, you need to define, okay, this is when my story takes place. It takes place during the period when so was, happening in the world. Okay, so you need to define it. Even if you're writing fantasy, something that is not real, you still need to define. Okay, you still need to define all these questions as well. Okay, especially the when question. It's something that you come up with. Even if you come up with an imagined situation, okay, that happened in the world that you are trying to create, you still need to define it. Okay, so the last question, which is the H question, is how. Okay, how do you want to write it? Do you want to write, or do you want to tell your story? Do you want it to be a short story, or would you like it to be a flash fiction, or a multiple chapter story? Okay, if you want it to be a multiple chapter, you decide. If you want it to be a series, maybe you don't want it to be one book. If you want to tell it as a series, you need to define it, because if it's going to be a series, it will determine how you write it and how much information you put into each book. Okay, and how you gradually reveal okay the backstories. I'm not going to get too much into that right now, because it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about, but basically that's what you decide when you're answering the how question. You determine whether you want it to be a series or not, whether you want it to be a short story or not, whether you want it to be multi-chapter, how many chapters you want, and you also decide the POV that you want. You want it to be first person, which is like using I and then we, or you want it to be a second person, which is you, or you want it to be a third person, which is using he, she, they, and them. Okay, you decide how you want to tell the story, whether it's what kind of POV you want, and what kind of story it is going to be. For nonfiction also, for memoirs, you don't really need too much. You don't have much of a problem there. For memoirs, you need to use the first person POV, obviously, because it's a story about yourself. For how-to books or whatever, they're usually written in third person, sometimes with first person mixed in here and there. Use first person when you're talking about how your own experiences doing that thing that you're talking to your audience about. You use first person there, and then maybe you use, sometimes you could even use second person. Actually, you could use a mix of the three. Actually, you could, or you could use only one, or you could use two, whichever one. Just decide how you want to tell the story. Okay, so the exercise that I have for you for this lesson is that the idea you chose in module 1, sorry, the idea that you picked in module 1, I need you to summarize it in 5 sentences. Okay, just summarize it. Okay, using this 5 W's and 1 H question as a guide. I need you to summarize it and write what story is about, where it takes place, when it takes place, what happens, and how you want to write it. Okay, just write it in a story form encompassing all these questions in it. Make it 5 sentences or maximum 6 sentences. Okay, and just have it down there. Even if you don't want to use that idea, that's fine. Maybe if you come up with another idea, it's okay. Come up with another idea and answer those questions in sentences. Okay, I could give an example now. I gave an example in module 1 about Abdullah listening at home on a Monday morning, and he received a call. Okay, so I'm going to use that idea again now. Okay, so Abdullah is at home, maybe watching TV or just browsing the internet on a Monday morning. Okay, and he receives a call. So they were saying, Abdullah, I'm starting my 5 sentences now. Abdullah lays at home, one fine Monday morning. He received a phone call to come for an interview, and excitedly Abdullah jumps up, prepares, and leaves the house so as not to be late for the interview. After 2 hours of running helter-skelter and looking for what is not there or what was not real, Abdullah returns home exhausted and angry, and when he returns home, he finds out that his home is empty. Everything that is in his home has been cleared out, and the house is empty save for a note from his friend Tokwe detailing the reason why he did what he did. Okay, so I'm taking that angle because in the first example I mentioned in lesson module 1, I was talking about him doing a surprise, his friend planning a surprise for him, or maybe want some unscrupulous elements to take away everything that Abdullah has. So I chose that angle, and you could now detail that in a note maybe later, but we want this summary to be tight, so you won't be putting that in there. But you can see that in the example that I gave, all those questions have been answered. Who is the story happening to? It's Abdullah. Where did it happen? It happened in his house, majorly because we didn't talk about what happened outside. We only talked about what happened when he was in the house and what happened when he came back. Why did it happen? Because Tokwe, his friend, wanted to, get rid of all his stuff. And what else? What else? What is the story about a a friend, a betrayer friend, a friend that betrayed his friend for money. Okay, and how did I tell the story? I told it in the third person perspective. Okay, so I would put this example as well in a PDF, reading PDF for this lesson that you'll find in the course area. So I just wanted to give you a rough example of what I am talking about. Okay, so use that as a guide and come up with a summary of your idea. As I said before, it could be a new idea, or it could be that idea that you're working with, or that you started working with, that you came up with in module 1. So just come up with 5 or 6 sentences, answering all these questions, and just have fun with it. Okay, so this lesson marks the end of module 2. I will see you in module 3, inshallah. So please make sure to do your exercises, make sure to complete them, and I'll see you in the next module. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.